So this is the Hublot Sang Bleu special edition with the in-house movement with the Unico. It's a beautiful piece, you know, and imagine you walk into a room with this piece. It's a
high-end luxury speak is Cezno Benson's forte. As a luxury influencer engaging diverse audiences, the concept from a definitional point doesn't appear to be ambiguous.
True luxury is something that's unique, something that takes time to craft, something that's not easily replicated. Rolex is a fantastic example, founded in the 18th century, and till today it's the biggest watch brand. And the gap between Rolex and the second biggest watch brand in terms of sales, it's quite massive. And today, Louis Vuitton off everybody's mouth. Everybody knows this brand, and they've continued to evolve. And I think one of the leaders in the fashion sense of things, of adapting to the new consumer.
The luxury goods sector has proven remarkably resilient through a global crisis, with analysts forecasting a near full return to 2019 revenues this year, as share prices continue to outperform the wider equity market. Yet, the crisis has changed the relationship between luxury brands and their consumers in significant ways. Yvonne Okocha is a luxury entrepreneur operating within the Nigerian market. Besides curating select pieces for purchase, Yvonne also offers personal shopping services for clientele with specific luxury choices.
With the coronavirus pandemic and restricted travel, luxury sales plummeted drastically, but we also saw a sharp increase as soon as restrictions were lifted. Also, we saw enhanced digital interaction. From online selling to virtual to distance selling, luxury brands fully embraced all mediums to interact and sell to clients outside of a physical store.
With the unexpected came the necessity for many businesses to adapt. A term that father-daughter team John and Jennifer Obayiwada are both very familiar with. Running one of Nigeria's pioneering luxury goods retail ventures, Polo Luxury Group, successfully for almost 4 decades, has not been a walk in the park, and the outbreak of a global pandemic was just another curveball to navigate.
I think there was a negative effect on global sales, global luxury sales at the beginning of the pandemic, because worldwide we were experiencing, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. We were unsure what the next day would bring. And so I think with the lockdowns, we saw, of course, an immediate dip in sales. A few months into the pandemic, we started seeing what we call revenge buying. And so we would see a sharp increase in purchasing from the Nigerian client because we were still in some sort of lockdown situation. I think that was sustained for a few months.
Online retail has more or less been able to sustain the industry to a large extent, Yes, where people were not able to go out into shops because shops were shut down, they could shop online. And this has kept the industry afloat.
Retail is the biggest industry in the world, bigger than oil and gas.
Deremi Ajidahu can relate to navigating the murky waters of enterprise in the Nigerian market, having built a leading luxury retail network, Whole 19 Group, out of what started out as a golf marketing company over the last 30 years.
Yes, we've had a hit. We've had a big slowdown. I think our revenue has dipped. We could have been hit 50%, which is quite a lot. We're trying to rebuild. We're trying to rehire. We are trying to sort of get our businesses set for the next 2-3 years. We see that there should be a good upturn come last quarter of 21. I think 22 will be interesting for us because we have to start following international norms, perfecting international standards, giving better service to our customers, reaching our customers directly. If we're able to do that, I think we're going to have an excellent 2022.
While it is clear that the pandemic has deepened and solidified consumers' behaviors across sectors, it has also created new imperatives for the luxury industry, including the need to study a new shift in the psychology behind purchases. So, in light of the last few months we've all experienced globally, what would you say are some of the factors currently influencing consumer decisions around luxury goods on this market?
People are now becoming a lot more interested in their homes. We've seen a significant shift in that, especially during the COVID lockdown. A lot of people had spent times in their houses. It gave them a bit of time to think about, this is why I live every day. I want my space to be nicer. That's why we have brands like Fendi, Bentley. They have licensed a brand called Luxury Living that create furniture for them. So, when you walk into somebody's living room and you see a Fendi couch, they mean business. People are becoming more interested in how they want to smell, and they want a particular scent, and they want it to be unique. So just think about it. Like, what's the easiest gift you can give somebody that's perceived luxury? It's perfume. It's an easy go-to gift. And now with niche fragrances, it's not like any bottle of perfume that you can buy anywhere, but it's a level above. So if you're giving it to a high-profile person or somebody you appreciate, it's a luxury purchase as well. And of course, there's watches. Everybody seems to be very big in the watches right now. I think Instagram has boosted the popularity of this specifically. More people are becoming more aware about a watch is not just an instrument for telling time, but it's also a piece of art. And think about it, you can't take your car into a meeting, but you can take your watch in. It's a statement piece on your wrist.
Interestingly, most of my clients are male, purchasing for themselves and also for females. But the most purchased brands among my female clientele are Hermes, Chanel, Gucci, and Bottega Veneta. Leather goods are the most demanded. Footwears and bags. Footwears prices ranging from $800 to $2,000, and bags anywhere from $3,000 to $20,000. The higher end of that spectrum being Hermes, Birkin, and Kelly bags.
The behavioral studies come in very handy. But for retailers who have stood the test of time in the Nigerian market, history has been a very great tutor.
At that time, who knew about Patek Philippe? Who knew about even the mighty Rolex that is today a household name, Cartier, Bonne Mercier. These are some of the brands we started with. And it was like Greek to so many people, because we had other alternatives. And those alternatives worked for them. But we coming into this space to raise the bar and take them from what they knew, from where they were at, to places unknown, introducing to them a range of products that they just didn't have any idea about, or only a very, very, very few negligible, segment of the society, or even the public, the consuming public knew about, was quite a daunting challenge. Plus, we've had environmental challenges. We've had fires burn down our entire building with stock and inventory. At a time when we didn't know any better to buy the correct insurance, so it was like starting all over again. We had gunmen elegantly dressed in nice sharp agbada, with briefcases, pretending to be customers, and they cleaned us out at gunpoint, with some of our customers lying face down on the floor. Many years ago, we have had floodings. We've been through all sorts of baptism. But I tell you, that is the joy of this whole thing. That you are able to go through it, that you can look back and laugh about it, that you can overcome, It's been an amazing journey.
You've got financial challenges, you've got logistical challenges, you've got challenges of actually acquiring the brands, you've got the challenge of trust of the Nigerian market. You've got to tell the story, you've got to find your solutions around that. So plenty of challenges, and it won't stop there. There are plenty to come, but we're up to it. And not just us, many people in this space have done a brilliant job. They face the same challenges, but I think the main goal now is for everybody within the space to create what I would call the Nigerian luxury retail industry. That's what I'm looking forward to. The retailers have to come together. They have to band together. They shouldn't see themselves as competition to each other. They should see themselves as joining hands to try to create a retail space, an enlarged retail space. Because when you enlarge the retail space, you bring confidence to the consumer.
While the desire to build a potential multi-billion-dollar industry exists, players unfortunately do not enjoy an enabling environment to help accelerate this. And I'm curious about the relationship between Nigeria's financial system and its luxury industry.
In the order of preference, I think a bank would like to lend to IT, telco, oil traders. Even when they burn their fingers and lose their share, they are still consumed and very, very enamored, of these sectors They of course, today healthcare is booming, so it's like a natural magnet, But we talk of luxury, like what's that,
Yeah.
So it's tough, and of course the governments are giving money to the gencos, the electricity suppliers, even though they are supposed to be privately owned and all that.
Hand in hand with the banking, it's also the infrastructure, and the cost of business. It would appear punitive when you're now talking about margins. So I guess that's one of the reasons why they're skeptical about playing in the business.
If you go to a bank and you say, "Oh, look, I will have a franchise with a Hermes, let's say, for example, and I'm going to need $2-3 billion to actually sign that contract." The bank will not even understand that $2-3 billion to sign a Hermes contract is chicken change, because the 10-year lifespan of running a proper Hermes franchise will bring you multiples of that any day, and everybody will be in profit. But they will have no clue. What they'll tell you is, "Oh, go and bring your landed property, or go and do this." They will not actually assess the business itself, because they only understand building tank farms or putting cables. All those things are necessary. But if we talk about watches, you have Rolex. I mean, Rolex is making 1 million watches a year. Today, I think the demand is probably 2.5 million. How can a company be making 1 million watches a year, but the demand is 2.5 million? These are crazy. These are crazy numbers. Rolex is perhaps, I think it's in the top 3 of most recognized brands in the world. And this is not just in the luxury industry. You say Rolex to a little child, everybody knows Rolex, so this is luxury again. These days, you talk LVMH, Louis Vuitton, everybody knows these brands. So luxury has become critical. And in Nigeria, we have to also understand this as being a very important industry. And we need banking. We need bankers to understand, because that's what's going to allow us to grow.
While the returns of this prospect appears in numbers for retailers in the Nigerian market, structures in other economies have proven that the consumer needs the bank just as much, as this has paid clear dividends in credit-driven markets such as South Africa. But talking about South Africa, which boasts a catalogue of international luxury brands, what do players attribute its attractiveness to, in spite of Nigeria being Africa's biggest economic power with a mammoth market size?
If you look at even those markets where luxury consumption is quite high, much of it is not driven by the local people. Much is driven by the tourists who come from the Arab world, China, who come from Russia, who come from America, So you have this influx of people, tourists, seeking enjoyment, seeking pleasure, seeking the good life, even if it's just for a few weeks, And then they descend on the shops, and so they keep the businesses going. Here, the hotels are expensive, The environment is not thought to be very safe, not being a tourist destination, not having the right infrastructure to support luxury retail, And then, of course, you have uncertainties in the financial markets, in the foreign, especially the foreign markets,
According to global wealth intelligence group New World Wealth, the South African luxury sector generates a revenue of 28.5 billion rand, about $2 billion a year, making it the largest luxury market in Africa by some margin. This market includes luxury cars, clothing and accessories, watches, luxury hotels and lodges. South Africa also falls into the luxury take-off stage, which includes a rapidly expanding upper-income class, combined with significant investment in formal retail spaces and a more established shopping mall culture. Brands therefore compete for early mover advantage and set up directly operated stores. The country concentrated the largest amount of private wealth in Africa as of last year at $604 billion. Egypt, Nigeria, Morocco, and Kenya followed, establishing the 5 wealthier markets on the continent.
South Africa was sold. The international journalists, local journalists, they all sold the South African market to all the brands many, many years ago. I equate South Africa a lot to Brazil, where they had a lot of goodwill, a lot of good writing, a lot of potentials were hyped up, the market was hyped up, monies came in, international investments came in to build malls, to build centers. Brands were queuing over themselves to jump into the market without really knowing exactly what they were doing. You had a lot of use of white privilege as well. I mean, this word, we can say that it's overused, but I think in certain contexts, it actually describes very well where we are. Because if you look at the luxury industry, there are very few black people inside the industry. There are very few black owners, there are very few black CEOs, there are very few black senior executives, and very few black retailers across the world. If you go to South Africa and you're talking about these boutiques that you're mentioning, none of them are owned by black people. At best, you've got a few Indians owning some fashion boutiques and so on and so forth. But watch brands, they're all owned by white South Africans. So why was South Africa, quote unquote, successful? That, yeah, they had the goodwill. So the money followed that goodwill. And that's what happens. Money follows goodwill. If you look at South Africa again, I'm told, and the figures indicate that the major buyers in South Africa back then were Nigerians. Santa Mall was full of Nigerians crawling through every store. For the longest time, the success or the so-called success of the South African retail boom was based on a lot of Nigerian income. You could see that also from property. But yes, they got that goodwill, and we just we just don't have any of that, and we have to work on that.
So let's talk numbers and the realities on ground. What are the real market trends and what's influencing that from a purchasing power perspective yet again?
People don't just spend $20,000, $40,000. There's an emotional factor towards that. So that's why it's really important for the history and the storytelling of the brand. And you see, this is where a lot of brands leverage. They'll tell you they were the first to do X, Y, Z, or the first to do that. And a lot of collectors, they like that as well. That's why you see, in terms of the marketing and strategy, a lot of these brands, they try and find lifestyle elements that connect the brand with the person. So like, I'll give you an example. Ferrari and Hublot, they made a partnership with Ferrari. So you have a Ferrari customer who loves cars, and you add that to the watch. So you get a bit of that lifestyle element. You put that together, and that's one of the reasons why a customer will go for a particular brand.
While brand association metrics can be equated to a universal audience, what are the peculiarities for African luxury brands and their consumers?
In Nigeria, I do believe brand association and conspicuous consumption are the two major factors that influence consumers' decision to purchase. Most consumers will purchase brands that give a perception of wealth. The more recognizable a brand is, the higher the chance of it being purchased regardless of price. The African luxury industry has its peculiar dynamics. The market is undersaturated, consumers are price sensitive. Consumer behavior differs from country to country. For example, a consumer in Dakar might prefer to be more discreet, and while a Nigerian consumer would prefer to be ostentatious. Unfortunately, the global luxury industry hasn't yet fully embraced African brands, citing weak demand and fragile market dynamics. But I do believe there's a breakthrough coming for African luxury brands. Just recently, we saw Beyoncé include a list of African fashion brands to her website. So there's an increased global appreciation for African luxury brands.
So studying the market undoubtedly goes a long way. But are brands and retailers spot on? What does the market really want?
Just concentrating on that.
Yes, this is the Game of Thrones.
You buy quality, you buy something that is reliable, you buy something that is durable. And so you can pass it from one generation to the other. Generally, Nigerians like luxury. They wear, designer stuff. Everybody just wear designer stuff. Because that is the taste that they have built. They know that it's going to last, and that when they wear it, there's an aura around them. There is that brings also some kind of respect, So we like that kind of thing. So they play to what the society likes.
Although luxury consumption more often than not is emotional, ultimately clients want quality and exclusivity.
Nigerians have a high purchasing power for luxury. However, we spend a lot of this money out of the country, and this does not reflect on our market. So yes, we're one of the biggest spenders in Harrods, but that's still part of the UK market. So what these brands are seeing, these are UK sales and not Nigerian sales. And in turn of that, all the marketing activations will go to the UK. So in Nigeria, for instance, we have a lot of local retailers here, such as we have Rolex, we have Hublot, a lot of watch brands, even furniture brands. We need consumers to spend the money in the country for it to reflect on the market. So this will give a direct indication to these brands to invest more in Nigeria, as opposed to investing more in the UK through Nigerian sales.
I don't want transparent.
Counterfeiting has been a major thorn in the flesh for the luxury retail space, as this is also a motivation for consumers to purchase luxury goods overseas.
In Nigeria, we don't even have we have laws against counterfeit and people bringing in fake goods and people selling fake goods in prominent locations. The laws are there, but they're not adhered to. They're not administered. So the Nigerian consumer doesn't know whether this is the real product, this is a fake product, because everything is all mixed together.
When you talk of fakery for instance, or the counterfeiting business, again, fortunately, it's not done in Nigeria.
Yes.
We don't have a counterfeiting business, it's done in their countries.
Yeah.
And they push them to us. And because our people do not have the wherewithal to buy an authentic Louis Vuitton or Gucci or Valentino or Bottega, they're happy to jump on the nearest available option, which is the fake.
Yeah.
But don't forget, when those individuals start to make any real money, the first thing they will do will be to dump their fakes and jump on to the authentics,
Certainly.
So it's also has its place.
That's why we're here, as the authorized retailer for the brands. So we are Rolex for Nigeria. We are Cartier for Nigeria. We are Bottega Veneta for Nigeria. And this is the reason why we're here.
While many well-known luxury companies base their success on tradition and pedigree, an important factor in long-term growth is innovation and responsiveness to changing times, as pop culture and social media have become driving forces behind changing demographics, consumption patterns, and purchase habits of millennials. slowly eroding the unique positioning of vintage luxury.
Regarding social media, the millennials are the highest users, and they tend to go for luxury experiences and Instagrammable moments rather than purchasing tangible luxury goods.
There is also a shift from material to experiential luxury in maturing markets, opening newer consumer segments for the travel and food industries.
Currently, we have lots of people having interest in travel, especially luxury travel. Most people are beginning to find their way out of the country once again, especially after the COVID. For people that are traveling, especially for exotic vacation, people have begun to think of traveling, and we also have more people coming in, especially young people, most especially to Mauritius, Maldives for vacation and also to relax.
As relevance becomes the new legacy, luxury brands must lean in and transform themselves from brand-centric, controlled and confidential to transparent, engaging and customer-centric models to keep the golden coins rolling in. Abby Owolawi for Arise News.